What we're seeing with the new administration is they are very focused on getting things done. So if you're on that Fast 41 list, then they really expect you to deliver and perform. We've got 8.57 million pounds in resource at the moment. We'd really like to get it more around that 10 million pound mark, which is roughly going to give us a 10-year mine life at sort of around 800,000 pounds a year or slightly more.
Hello and welcome back to The Next Big Rush. We are here to talk uranium, and I want to welcome Bruce Lane from American Uranium. If American Uranium doesn't quite ring a bell yet, this is the same company that used to be GTI Energy, so I'm sure you've heard of them if you've been down the deep rabbit hole that is uranium mining stocks. Today we're going to talk about US-based projects, the opportunity, the timing for uranium, and also about his company and why you should pay attention. Bruce, welcome.
Hi, Fabi. It's good to be with you.
It's a pleasure, Bruce. Listen, I've been banging the table on US-based uranium and companies that have it as their main bread and butter and not just as an aside. And I've been doing it for a long time. Reason being, as we're now starting to really catch a bid when it comes to uranium, again, as an investment thesis, a lot of people are finally coming to this realization that it's a little bit of a mix, right? It's the mix that the US used to be number one in the world. And they lost that position for a few different reasons. And now, we know where the deposits are. It's not a matter of can we find something? It's a matter of how much of it do we have and how can we get it into production? So the whole story from, a very early start to actually producing is possible. You're seeing that, Encore Energy came to production. You have Energy Fuels. You have now a very small production number, but not zero from UEC as well. And so you have the opportunity of going through that whole cycle within the US, and it's something that you are not really seeing outside of it. Can you explain to folks back home why you think that US-based uranium projects are so hot right now?
Yeah, look, I agree with everything you've said there, Fabi. Obviously, we've been working in the US on uranium projects since 2019. So, we firmly believed, and I in particular firmly believed that the day would come. I don't think I dreamed it would be quite as, positive as it is at the moment, with all of these factors all coming together at the same time, with AI sprinkled on top. But I'm not going to complain about that. But look, yeah, I think your point about being able to execute on projects is important, and it isn't the case in every state in the US. We've obviously got the agreement states, Utah, Colorado, Texas, and Wyoming, where the states have controlled permitting, and that's where the uranium production has been, particularly, Wyoming, Texas, and Colorado, but Utah also. So we know that projects can get up, and as you said, around us, within about, less than 100 miles, we've got Peninsula Energy back in production. You mentioned UEC, you got Energy Fuels there with Nichols Ranch, which is not back in production, but it's permitted and could be. We've got Cameco 10 miles to our east with the largest permitted US facility there that's, it's not back in production, but it could be. And we've got UR Energy down at Lost Creek in the Great Divide Basin, which is less than 100 miles away, in production now and building the Shirley Basin project, which is a very similar sized project to our project. We've got Encore on the Fast 41 at Dewey Burdock, and we've now got the old Rio Tinto Sweetwater Mill also on the Fast 41, now owned by UEC. So there's a lot of activity, and I think the focus that we're seeing is that particularly at a federal level, there's a huge amount of focus on getting things done very fast. And that is different. That is very different. The Biden administration were really supportive and did a lot of things to help. But they kind of didn't really get things moving a lot. They talked a lot and they did some good things, but they didn't really get traction with things. So what we're seeing with the new administration is they are very focused on getting things done. So if you're on that Fast 41 list, then they really expect you to deliver and perform. So that's the general environment, and we know that the US utilities are still the biggest buyer of uranium on the planet, and currently the run rate on production's £1 million or less, and so that's why we're really interested in the neighbourhood, and why we're focusing on trying to get our project through to to that FID decision as soon as we can.
Awesome. Okay, so tell me a little bit more about Fast 41. You mentioned that. Is that another sort of way that the current government is using to fast track permitting? Is that the idea?
Yeah, look, the federal agencies have this is two lists, if you like. One is the transparency list, which are where you want to get visibility across all the federal agencies, and the permitting council have kind of put together a program where you get that visibility, and all of the agencies are aware of these projects and the ones that are trying to move forward, so that they can try and reduce any delays, any unnecessary delays, and work together to get things moving. The Fast 41s are kind of the next level up, where you've actually got a development project which is closer to production, and typically might already be permitted or very close to permitting. And I think the Velvet Wood project was one that had been in a permitting phase for a long time, and they kind of just accelerated the back end of that and got it done very quickly. So it's and there's a smaller number of companies on that list. And I guess the obligations and the commitment from the company on that particular list is quite high. So if you're on that list, you're really expected by the federal government to step up and start kicking goals, and they'll do everything they can to help you get through that process.
Gotcha. Okay. So tell me more about American Uranium. You've just had a major rebrand from GTI Energy. Who's on the team that's going to push this forward? Let's start with that.
Yeah, look, I guess we've on our board we've got Matt Hartman, who was involved in the ISR business for many years. He's also been a consultant with SRK and worked at Sweetwater Royalties, which had the largest land holding position in Wyoming. So he's worked on Church Rock. He's worked on up at Smith Ranch. Very familiar with ISR from a technical point of view. But Simon Williamson down here in Australia, and he's ex-general manager of Cameco in Australia. Retired from that position about less than a year ago. Jim Boffman, based in Wyoming, he was part of the team that helped us to assemble some of the assets. He was CEO of High Plains that was sold to Uranium One back in the last cycle for $55 million. And so they're probably the three key people with local and technical expertise. And then we work with very closely with our consultants in Wyoming, and we have done for 4 or 5 years. Through that whole COVID period, we executed. I couldn't even leave the state of Western Australia during that period, and we were able to execute and drill and conduct drill programs very successfully through that period. So that's the executional team, and we've got, I think the guys at BRS have been doing this stuff since the 70s and 80s. So we're very pleased with the way that's been working, and we've got a great in-country presence.
Yeah, I love Wyoming as a jurisdiction, and I know the BRS guys. I know that they're good. I've worked with them before, so that's a good stamp of approval. Having lived through that. Okay, so just walk us through Flagship project. What's the focus? Where are you at? And what do you foresee happening in the next number of months?
Yeah, so we've really focused all our activities on the Lo Herma Project for the last 3 or 4 seasons, and big reason for it is its location. Right in it's about 40 minutes up the road from Casper in Wyoming, right in the southern Powder River Basin, 10 miles away from Cameco Smith Ranch Highland. We've got the Pine Ridge project abutting us to the north, which is a large exploration project, half owned by Snow Lake and half owned by GUE. Snow Lake have just come in for a placement in our company in the last financing round. We've got UEC and all those guys around us. So that's the setting. We picked up a historical body of data from drilling in the 70s to get us started, and from that we declared an initial resource. Then we conducted 2 programs since then to validate and verify data. We declared a resource a couple of years ago. Then we upgraded that resource after a 76 hole program at the end of last year. So we did put out a 50% resource upgrade in late last year. Then earlier this year, we finalised a scoping study, and we wanted to wrap a scoping study around it, which is a PEA equivalent in NI 43-101 terms, so that we really had a firm grasp of what the economics were going to be at the scale we were at, and then we could look at extending the mine life through the exploration that we're doing this year. So that's what we're currently doing. We've done hydrology, we've done metallurgy, permeability. So we've gotten into the process enough to give us enough confidence to continue to invest in the project. There's more work to do. There's more hydrology to do. There's more metallurgy to do, more drilling to do. And that's what we're focused on doing through the back end of this year and early into next year, with a view to updating both our resources and then eventually the scoping study off the back of that.
Okay, so you mentioned something important. You said that there's more drilling to do. So obviously you need to do all the different studies that you need, especially if you want to figure out if this is an ISR project or not, etc. That I'll leave for the engineers. When it comes to drilling, my question is the point and purpose of the drilling here because there's potential to expand the mineralization footprint, or is it that you just want to gain more certainty of the pounds that you have in the ground? And how large are we speaking?
Yeah, so the work that we've got permitted is both of those things. So there's a component of it which is step-out drilling. We've already identified where our mine units are going to be, our initial mine units. And so what this year's drilling is focusing on is stepping out that drilling to grow the resource around those mine units. We've already located a block where we think we can put a central processing plant. We've already got a flow sheet, so we know what the metallurgy is. We're just using the same lixiviant that Cameco uses 10 miles up the road, and that would be sensible because it's the same geology, same mineralisation, within reason. So the second part of that program would be to come back and do some infill drilling to increase the proportion of indicated resource. So we've got 32% indicated resource at the moment, and what we want to do is push the confidence levels up and do some more hydrology. We've got some water wells in the aquifers, and so we're able to do some of that testing this year, but we'd also need to install some more water wells eventually. So the short answer is both exploration and infill. We've got 8.57 million pounds in resource at the moment. We'd really like to get it more around that 10 million pound mark, which is roughly going to give us a 10-year mine life, at sort of around 800,000 pounds a year or slightly more. So that's the rough run rate. And if you look at what Lost Creek is producing down in the Great Divide Basin, UR Energy's project, that's got a 2 million pound per annum back end in the plant, but the bore field's around 1 million pounds, and they're sort of pushing to get up to that million. And then the Shirley Basin project, which they're in the process of building as we speak, they're pouring concrete and drilling the bore field. They'll truck resin beads back to Lost Creek to process them there. So we're sort of looking at that size of project. There's another project up the road. Encore's got the Gas Hills project, which is only about 40-50 miles up the road. It's also around that 8 million pound mark, and they've got that under a study, and it's in their development pipeline for some time in the next year or two.
I have a question for CEOs that nobody ever wants to answer it candidly, so I'm going to throw this at you.
Yeah.
is the plan to actually go into production, or is the plan to sell this on to a buyer who will hopefully overpay for this?
Yeah, so I'll give you one of those circuitous answers that you probably get from everybody else. The nice thing is that that's not a decision we need to make today. What we do between now and when those sorts of decisions get made, we're trying to execute, to put a project together, to put a study around it that then makes it financeable. If it's financeable, it's also acquirable. And I wouldn't be the first person to suggest that there will need to be some more consolidation, or there's likely to be more consolidation, for all the obvious reasons why consolidation occurs. And so, that's a possibility. But this is a constructible project. It's the startup capital is around the sort of $45 million mark. And then, you're looking at really attractive cash flows. I mean, your all-in sustaining cost could be around the sort of $35 to $40 mark. So if you've got a contract price, if I don't think $80 is the contract price, but I think it's higher than that. But I think we used 90 in our scoping study, and I think even that's looking on the low side at the moment. But I'm certainly, I'm not going to be the oracle on uranium pricing, but we think there's really good money in the project, and the complexity isn't a huge challenge because it's alkaline leach, and putting Peninsula aside, because that's the only acid leach project in Wyoming, every other project is alkaline leach. Lost Creek are doing it at the moment. Cameco produced 33 million pounds 10 miles to our east using alkaline leach. And that's obviously what UEC is doing. So it is executable, and it's executable in Wyoming. So the short answer is, if we were funded to build it, we think we could build it.
This is what I like about Australians, that you guys actually want to build the stuff. I just find it fascinating for my own benefit, because even if you don't, the fact that you can and that you can build a team to push that forward makes it even more attractive to potential buyers. So I'm all for that. I'm all for selling the project, but I'm all for looking like you could build it yourself.
And look, and I think you've got to be realistic. I mean, we don't have a team to build a project at the moment, but yes, we have the beginnings of a team, of a construction team, and we'd certainly have to add to the team. So I don't want to make it sound
no, absolutely. What I mean is that there is that impetus to get there. Even if the team doesn't look like that now, you can probably tap into contacts in the industry and then evolve into that for sure. So thanks for clarifying that, Bruce. There's a problem. We haven't talked about any issues. We haven't talked about, any potential risks to your project. You're in a great jurisdiction. The timing probably couldn't be any better right now. Uranium is finally back in people's minds and portfolios. Spot is catching a bid, and we are likely, fingers crossed, on the cusp of another leg of this bull market. What could go wrong? What are the risks here for American Uranium?
Yeah, look, I mean, there's obviously always, macro risks around the broad market. The company, needs to be funded one way or another going forward. So that's always the one that I think is the most obvious one. Although I think there are increasingly going to be other forms of funding available to credible projects with a path forward that may be non-dilutive or less dilutive to shareholders, JVs, royalty funding, those sorts of things. I'm not saying that they're all falling in our lap right at the moment, but we certainly see that possibility as much more likely going forward, as the uranium market gets much more competitive. Look, there's always executional risk. We do still have work to do. We got to put more drill holes in the ground. We've got to get the aquifer tested more completely than we have so far. So, those are part of the program, and we're pretty confident that we've got the right resource in the right setting, but we've still got to do that work. We've got to. It's really around the executional risk. I see the scale of the project and the capital. I mean, the capital by the time, if we were to get to construction in 2028, which is what we have in our initial time frame. What will the costs be in 2028, and what will the pressure be on the industry in Wyoming if everybody's trying to get into production at the same time? So those are real considerations. That's there's those sort of things. They're the main ones. Finding the right people, we've already talked about that, but that is obviously, fundamental to getting the job done.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I heard a really wise man say that when you have an upturn in commodities, you might as well invest in a Lamborghini store where people are going to make a lot of money. I wouldn't put it past the Wyoming, Texas, and mind you, Texas needs oil also to marry that bull market. But Wyoming, Utah, parts of Colorado, Nevada, especially. I think the Lamborghini Ferrari stores there are going to just absolutely make
take off. Do you think?
Coming years. So if you're unsure of what investments to make, there's a strange offside idea. Thank you so much, Bruce. Is there anything else that you want to leave our investors with, and where can they find out more about American Uranium?
Yeah, so I guess, look, we've got drilling permitted. We should be in the field in the next few weeks. I haven't got a specific date, I know roughly, but we'll guide that in the market soon. There'll be drilling, through to Christmas. We'll do a resource upgrade, and then from there, hopefully, we roll into a scoping study update. So that's the broad sort of brush on news. You can find us at a nice short web address, americanuranium.com.au. But if you just Google American Uranium, we should kind of get there. ASX code is AMU. We are listed on the OTC. Our code is still GTRIF. It's just taking them a little time to get that changed. Anybody wants to reach out to me, contact details on the website. There's an info at americanuranium.com.au that'll get to me. So please, if anybody wants to have a call or reach out, more than welcome it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Bruce. And I'll probably run into you in one of the next few events that we have in the mining world very soon. Take care.
Great to talk to you. Thanks, Fabi. See you later.